If you want to understand the history of a company, it makes sense to start with their most successful and significant inventions. But if you really want to understand the story of a company, you should also look at their failures and the things that they abandoned altogether. This is the Korg Music Unit 5000. It was sent to me by my friend Riccardo at the Museo del Synth Marchigiano in Italy with the challenge of finding out what it was and what it was supposed to do. First things first, I asked Riccardo what he knew about it, spoke to Korg Japan, Ishikawa-san at the Museo Korg, sent some photos of the circuit board to Danny at Hideaway Studios and scoured Tinternet. And what did we find out? Well, quite a lot. It was the year of our Lord, 1985, and Korg announced a music computer system. There was a computer, the MC4000, with MF1000 floppy disk running the MSA 1101 software, and then the MU5000 sound module, which they called the Sound Source Unit. Korg stated that this system would meet the ever-advancing possibilities of music creation. Thank you to Adam Douglas for the translations. The same year, Korg turned up at the Frankfurt Messe auf Deutschland und they brought this very computer system, and this was covered in Electronics and Music Maker, which is archived on the Brilliant Musines. You can see the whole system together with additional Korg branded speakers. The article tells us that the computer is a collaboration with Epson, and sure enough, the Korg MC4000 computer is a customized Epson PX4 that was released the same year. We also learn that the MU5000 is 16-part multi-timbral with an additional rhythm section, and that it shares technology with the DW6000 that came out in 1984. It also tells us that the available software provided rather cheesy accompaniments in the style of cheap home keyboards, and that they were hoping for something more interesting to be released. On the circuit side, Danny at Hideaway had a look at my photos and identified that it is based around a duo of mysterious MS6236 chips, each paired with a DAC IC, as well as a less mysterious MS6235 PCM drum chip. More on that later. There is also a simple BBD-based chorus generator. There's no filtering, and it doesn't seem to be the same as the DW6000 as the article implied, although it's perhaps something of a similar concept in terms of basic waveform generation. So the MU5000 responds to MIDI no on-off messages, program change messages, and some very basic things like portamento on-off. But I fired a load of MIDI messages into it and nothing has any effect. So whether it only responds to system-exclusive messages or whether you have to use the computer port to edit it, I don't know. But it is 16-part multi-timbral, and on each channel you can choose a program, and program 0 is this. The worst drums you've ever heard, and that's saying something because Korg put out the super drums. So, you know, I'm being a bit facetious here. So these are what play from the 6235 chip, and they're very low fidelity samples for a reason, to keep the cost down. The super drums is something like 8-bit at 15 kilohertz, some of the lowest fidelity samples I know about from a drum machine. And these sound like that. They've got a crunchy charm, and they are stereo if you listen to those toms, and it's got a stereo out, so they've obviously panned them as well. So that's program 0, the drums. Skipping over to program 2, this is what plays from the 6236 chips. So it sounds very 80s. I don't know if these are digital samples. Presumably they are very low fidelity digital samples. They're quite crusty and noisy. And they sound like they've been taken from FM synths, probably. That's the kind of tonal quality we're getting. Let's listen to some more. hear at the end of the samples, that of the kind of dirt in the samples, it must be the low sample rates. So you're hardly listening to this thinking, wow, these are the greatest sounds I've ever heard. They are kind of terrible, but they're of the time. That's unfair to say they're terrible. They are kind of typical of the time, and it gives us a glimpse into where things were when they were attempting, multi-timbral desktop sound modules in the mid-80s. So why did Korg abandon their computer system, and why did this wind up in Italy of all places? Well, there are people at Korg who worked on this at the time, but Korg told me that due to non-disclosure agreements from the time that are still enforceable, they can't tell me why it was abandoned, which is rather curious. So we're left guessing, and my best guess is that it has something to do with the relationship between Korg and Epson for that custom computer and something about the logistics of that, but I don't really know. But for whatever reason, they didn't see it through. They announced it, brought it to a trade show, and then it disappeared. And that might have been fateful, because competitors like Roland carried on with the desktop sound module thing, and their MT and CM series became the kind of de facto sound modules for PC gaming. So had Korg followed through on this, we might have a little bit of a different history in that regard. So why did it wind up in Italy? Well, Korg have a research and production facility in Italy, and historically they would send things there to get them voiced and have presets made so that they had a European Western ear involved in the development of their products, because of course they're selling to the world. So that is the most likely explanation as to why it wound up there. Then the project was abandoned, so it got put on a shelf for 40 years, and it has been found, although the rest of the computer system is missing. Because this is so rare, I've made a big sample pack of it, which is available on the top tier on my Patreon. Thank you to my patrons for their ongoing support. Thank you to Riccardo for the loan of this. Thank you to Korg and the various other people who helped. And of course, thank you to you for watching.